Just when you think the conversation about a five-star linebacker has finally found a resolution, a kid from Cleveland pops up and just takes his spot. I'm Steven Means. That's Andrew Gillis, and that's Stefan Krajisnik. The C.J. Hicks conversation, Stefan, has been one we've been having for 3 years of, hey, when's that guy going to get on the field? When's that former top 10 recruit in the country who clearly has first-round potential when you look at his skill set, when you look at his traits? He could be that. And it hasn't always looked great when he's doing linebacker things the first 2 weeks of the season, though James Laurinaitis did say he's the best blitzer in the room. I think we saw that on display in week 1. And now it seems like Arvell Reese has emerged as linebacker number 3, and we saw that against Western Michigan, where whenever they went with 3 linebacker sets, it wasn't C.J. Hicks taking the field. It was Arvell Reese taking the field. What does that mean for C.J. Hicks going forward?
Well, it means that it's going to be a struggle to get playing time when Big Ten play gets going and you're facing some offenses like Oregon's that can throw the ball around a bit. But I think Jim Knowles talked about it. Ryan Day talked about it. The potential of him playing more on the line of scrimmage because he is such a good blitzer. He can wreak havoc in a backfield. It's just the linebacker things, for lack of a better term, that maybe he struggles with a little bit more. That Arvell is appearing to be better at. But I think right now, the reason that the coaches keep saying, we need him at linebacker is just your depth on the defensive line is a lot better than your depth at linebacker, or so it seems. So I just think right now that they don't have much of a choice other than keep CJ at linebacker. But, it's so odd because he does feel – we've talked about it a lot in the press box. It feels like his perfect fit is kind of that jack or whatever coaches want to label that kind of hybrid position between a linebacker and a defensive end. That feels like more of a fit for C.J. Hicks. So maybe that's something in the future that they consider. But it just seems like for this year and kind of the roster that they have for 2024, that keeping him at kind of the traditional linebacker or trying to develop him there a bit more is just better for this team. Whether you think that's right or wrong, I think that's just how the coaching staff perceives it and kind of the depth that they have right now.
Andrew, you've watched this team play football for 2 weeks. Is what's happening with the dynamic between Arvell Reese and C.J. Hicks more about what Arvell Reese is doing or what C.J. Hicks isn't doing?
¿Por qué no los dos? Why not both? I think so. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Arvell Reese has flashed, and I think you haven't maybe seen that step that you would want to see from C.J. Hicks. And Steven and I were standing right over there. And I remember this during spring practice. We both looked at each other and we went, CJ's flying. CJ is moving. He was making plays in the backfield. There was one blitz he had where he just blew up one of the running backs. It was unbelievable how fast he was flying around the football. And now we are in a situation where we're not talking about him necessarily playing linebacker and we're 2 games into the season. I think that's an issue. And Jim Knowles mentioned Arvell. He mentioned Gabe Powers as someone he's thought flash. To me, this is not a great direction that this is heading for C.J. Hicks because it is, September 10th, and we're talking about him playing another position. We're talking about how you fit him on this defense. That's not great because when we get to the Iowa game, the first, I think, game where it really might be a battle, right? It has, or at least it has the potential to be one just with, Iowa's defense being pretty stout. Who's that third linebacker? Who's that fourth linebacker? I don't know the answer to that question. And when you've got Larry Johnson and his defensive line and Larry Johnson kind of controlling how things work on the defensive front, and you've got C.J. Hicks there as well, who you taking off the field for C.J.? It's a tough spot for him right now because Arvell has played really well, and you don't want to take anything away from Arvell Reese. I think Arvell Reese, to us in the press box and to them and the coaching staff, has looked really good. We just haven't really seen it with C.J. Hicks. And that is the worry right now, is that I think Arvell's taken a step forward, and I don't think C.J. has taken that step forward.
He's fourth. Gabe Powers, I know Jim Knowles said what he had to say about Gabe Powers, but he also said it's in limited reps. He's clearly number 5 in that situation. Gabe Powers is a 2025 conversation. What this is 2 things. For starters, Arvell Reese has given them another option. And not just another option, but a third option, while C.J. Hicks is maybe 4th in that territory. I think C.J.'s just stuck. He's just stuck. Jim Knowles said it. He said there would have to be some defensive line depth issues that arise for C.J. Hicks being that line of scrimmage, being the jack. For that to be a thing, the defensive line depth would have to go away. So here's what happened. Jack and JT came back. But also, Arvell Reese is good. And you have C.J. Hicks, who is the perfect candidate to play Jim Knowles' jack position, but it's a position they don't need this year. So because of that, he's kind of stuck in this, hey, keep developing as a linebacker. We'll use you as a blitzer when we can. But it's not the role that he could be playing had Jack and JT not come back. But when you mix that with Arvell Reese is also like, hey, he looks actually the most natural linebacker outside of Cody Simon. I would even throw Sonny Styles into that mix, who I think has been pretty good for a guy who was playing safety last year and was playing the Mike linebacker role in week 1 and is kind of alternating between that and Will right now. I think Arvell Reese looks like their second best linebacker. I think he's on that trajectory. When you add that in, mixed with, as I said, some guys on the defensive line came back that I think when you would have started the 2023 season, you would not have predicted that Tyleik Williams, Jack Sawyer, and JT Tuimoloau would all be back on that roster. So there's just no room at the end right now for CJ Hicks. What does that mean in 2024? I don't know. Maybe it means that you've got one more game where you're expected to maybe win by 40-plus points. He played 49 snaps against Western Michigan. A lot of that was second-team reps and garbage time. I think we might see that again, Stefan, where he plays those reps because he needs to just get used to playing linebacker. But it also just means when a lot of this depth on the defensive line isn't here a year from now, if CJ is still here, and I say if he's still here because we have to be real about this, the transfer portal is real, I think the jack position could be a thing in 2025. But right now, it just means that a 5-star recruit who clearly shows that he can play the jack role is stuck because that position isn't needed. And because it's not needed, it's also why they don't have Justin Hill, the 4-star recruit from Ohio in their recruiting class, and he's headed to Alabama. We'll continue to have this conversation on Buckeye Talk, so go listen to that wherever you find podcasts and get the text 614-350-3315. I'm Steven, that's Stefan, that's Andrew. See ya.